Tired of VLOOKUP giving you wrong results or worth nothing at all? What if I told you that one simple trick could make your lookup smarter, more accurate, and way more powerful? In this video, I'll show you exactly how combining the if function with VLOOKUP can level up your Excel skills fast, even if you are not a formula expert. Stick around, because we will build this together step by step with a real-life example that you can start using today. This is Ahmed Al-Gohari, and now you are watching Analytics Gateway. Before we start, let me tell you that the file we'll be using in this video is linked in the description below. You can download it and follow along with me step by step. Alright, let's get started by checking the table that will be used in our video. As you can see here, it's a simple table made of 4 columns. The first column is the employee ID, and hiring date, department, and basic salary column is empty. And also we have another small table here containing the employee ID and basic salary. But before we start, let's recap what's actually the VLOOKUP and if function do in Excel. Let's start with VLOOKUP. As we explained before at this video, that VLOOKUP is a lookup function that helps you to find the result in an array or in a table or in a specific range. On the other hand, the if function, which we describe in this video, we explained it as it's a logical test, or it's built on a logical test that gives you a result if true and another result if false. So how could we combine them together? And if you are asking why to combine if with VLOOKUP, I have many points to answer that. The first one is returning values only if a condition is met. The other point is helping you in data validation, error handling, and conditional logic. All of that will be explained at this video together step by step. So let's start with the first one, or the first status here, which is the very basic combination using if function and VLOOKUP function. All we need here is to have a function or a formula or a combined formula that check if the hiring date, if the difference between the hiring date and the annual increase date is more than 365 days, so this employee should be eligible to have an annual increase. So the very first thing we need to check is that the hiring date is before the annual increase date, at least with 365 days. And if yes, we need to go to the other table and look up to the basic salary of this employee so we can apply on it the annual increase rate. To do that, let's start with typing the logical function, which is if in our case. So the first thing is required is the logical test. And as we said before, logical test is the question we asking Excel to give us a result with true or false. So we will ask Excel if this date is minus this date, which is the hiring date, is greater than or equal 365 days. So this is the logical test, and after pressing comma, we will move to the second part of if function, which is the value of true. Here we can use the VLOOKUP. So if we found that the variance between the annual increase date and the hiring date is greater than or equal 365, then go to the other table and look for the employee ID getting the basic salary. To do that, in the value if true, we will use VLOOKUP function, and the first thing needed to complete this function is the lookup value. What value I'm looking for? So I'll tell Excel that I'm looking for the employee ID, then comma to move to the table array where I can find the results. So I'll select the table array and then press comma to go to column index number. Where is my result exactly located in the other table? It's in the second table, and as we agreed before, it doesn't matter where is the column we are searching for. It's column K, but it's in our selection, it's indexed as number 2 or column number 2. So we will type here 2, then comma. For this case, we are searching for an exact match or an exact employee ID. We don't need to search for approximate match for an employee ID. So we'll type here 0 or false, then close our bracket. Here we completed the VLOOKUP and also we completed the value if true. So let's move to the third part, which is the value if false. To do that, we need to type a comma to move to the value if false. What should I do if the value if false, or if this employee didn't complete 365 days yet? In this case, I can type anything. I can make it empty, so I'll keep it empty by typing double quote and close the if bracket and pressing enter. Here it given me the basic salary, which means that this employee has completed more than or equals 365 days from the hiring date. After that, we can drag our formula till the end, but before doing that, we need to confirm that some cells and some ranges need to be fixed by F4 from your keyboard. So at the logical test, we need to fix E1 in order not to move down with me when I drag the equations. I'll select or put the pointer on E2 and press from my keyboard F4, and then moving with my equation. Here VLOOKUP, I'm looking at the employee ID. I don't need it to be fixed. And then the table array here, the table array where I'm searching for this employee ID, I need to fix it by pressing F4 and nothing else. So I can press enter. I can drag my equation or my formula till the end, and then I can update this number format. Now I have some cells including number on it or basic salaries on it, but the other one is empty. So this one and this one, I have 5 cells is empty, which means that this employee doesn't complete yet the 365 days from the hiring date. If we have a random check here, so this one is hired in the first 20 of October 24, and by 1st of July 25, it won't complete 365 days or 1 year. And the same for this one. It's hired 8th of September 2024. So by 1st of July, it won't complete 365 or 1 year. That was a very simple example of using if and VLOOKUP. But what if I say to you that you can use also nested if with VLOOKUP? Let's go to the next example here to check the nested if with VLOOKUP. In this example, I have 2 tables. The first one is containing the employee ID and name, department, and ratio of completed target. The other one has the same data, but the main difference here that the first table containing many departments, while the other one containing only customer support. Another difference here that the first table containing employee ID from 101 till 115, while the second one is containing employee ID from 116 till 130. So how could I create a formula that checking if the employee ID between a specific number to check to VLOOKUP on the first table, and if not, check the second one? Let's have a try here. If we type a random one, let's be 109, and then go to the next cell, which is the name. I'm searching for the name. I can tell Excel exactly to check the employee ID I put in the previous cell, which is 109. If it's between 101 and 115, it will search in the first table. On the other hand, if it's from 116 to 130, it will search for the result in the second table. How to do that? We can type equal if. So the first logical test I'll do is checking if this employee ID is more than or equal 101. But wait, here I have 2 conditions. So referring back to if video, we can remember that we can add here before we start our logical test, because we have here 2 conditions. We can use and. We need to meet the 2 conditions together. So we will type and. The first logical here is N7 is greater than or equal 101. And the second condition is the employee ID, the same employee ID, is less than or equal 115. Then we can close and. At this stage, we completed the first logical test we need. So we can press comma to move to the value if true. If value if true, we will VLOOKUP at this employee ID, then comma, at this table, we will select the table, comma, and then pressing 2 for the column number index to get the name, and then comma 0 for exit match. Here we completed the value if true, but what if the value if false? What if the number is greater than or equal 101, but it's not less than 115, maybe 116 or 120? Here we can press comma to move to value if false, and then I can type another if to be a nested if, or I can make it search directly to the second one. But here is the thing, what if I type the value of employee ID as 150, so it will search and got nothing, right? To avoid that, we need to type another if here, following with AND function to check if this value, which is employee ID, is greater than or equal 116. At the same time, the same cell, which is N7, is less than or equal 130. Then we can close AND formula or AND function, then go to the next part, which is the value if true. If this logical test giving true, we can use VLOOKUP to look up at the employee ID at this table, the second one, then pressing comma to move to the third part, which is the column index number. It will be 2 and then comma 0 for exact match, and we can close it. But here there is a missing thing, which is the value if false. What if value if false for the first if and the second if? Here we can type comma to move to the third part, which is the value if false. I can keep it as empty, or I can type not exist and close my double quote, close my bracket, close the first if bracket, and pressing enter. We can drag our formula to the right, but before doing that, we need to fix some cells. The first cell we need to fix is in here, in everywhere, and this range table array in order not to move, and then N5, sorry, it's N7, and N7 here, N7, and this table array. We can then press enter. Then we can copy our formula to the right. It will give me the same name here. That's because we are looking at column index number 2. In order to solve that, we can press here and replace 2 with 3 here and here like that, and then pressing tab to move to the next one and replace 2 here with 4 and 2 here with 4. We can update our format here as a percentage style. Okay, it's 84%. So here, if the employee ID between 101 and 115, it will search at the first table. If the employee ID is between 116 and 130, it will search at the second one. So let's try an employee ID at the second table. For example, 126. It will give me the correct answer here. And if I try the non-exist employee ID, for example 200, it will give me not exist because our formula has its lookup at the first table and the second table, but it didn't find anything. So this employee ID is not exist at our database. Let's move to the third example. Here it's error handling. How can if function along with VLOOKUP can handle errors of lookup at any case? So this is our table containing employee ID along with the name, department, and the ratio of completed target. What I need here is to type an employee ID and it searches for it at this table. Simple, right? But what if I typed here an employee ID that doesn't exist here and I don't want to use a nested if as our previous example? So let's try that. Let's have a correct employee ID at the first place, and the second cell we can start by using equal VLOOKUP and then select this cell, then comma, select the entire table and fix it by F4 from our keyboard, comma, column index number is 2 and then comma 0. We can close our bracket and we can for sure fix the employee ID here because we don't want it to move to the right when we drag the equation, and then pressing enter. So it comes with a result, with a correct result. Here is the thing. If we change it, that employee ID to be another employee ID that doesn't exist, it will giving me an error NA, not available, or it said I cannot find this employee ID in the range you have selected. So how to solve that? Simply, we can add before VLOOKUP a function that called is NA. Is NA is a logical test. It's checking the value between the bracket we typed or calculated if it's NA or not. Let's close this bracket and pressing enter enter to check. So it giving me a true. That means that the VLOOKUP function here is returning an NA error because we are asking Excel, is that value between this bracket is giving an NA or not available result, so it giving me a true. So that's mean that this employee ID is not exist. So where is if here? We can use if here at the start of our equation to put another result, as we will check that. If we started it with if and keep this part as a logical test because it giving me a true or false, so it's a perfect logical test for if function, and then pressing comma to go to the next part, which is the value if true, I can type here not exist and close my double quote, then pressing comma. The last part here, if the value if false, that means I'm saying to if function that this function or this formula, which is a VLOOKUP, is giving an error at the end of its calculation. So if it tells me that it false, which means that the VLOOKUP function or this formula is giving me a real value, it's not an error. So that's why I will copy this formula and place it here, close my bracket and pressing enter. The result we can see here, it's not exist. That's because this employee ID is not exist. But if we have here a correct employee ID like that, it will giving me a correct name. Now we can drag our equation to the right side with a simple modification, which is updating the column index number with 3 here and 3 for the first one, pressing enter, go to the last one and replacing 2 with 4 and this also 4 and pressing enter, then we can update that format. So any correct employee ID we will copy and put it here, it will giving me a correct answer. And if I try to type any employee ID that not exist, it will giving me a not exist at all results. Now that you have seen the power of combining if with VLOOKUP, you can start building smarter Excel file that actually think for you. This is a game changer for reporting, dashboards, and everyday data work. If you found this helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe because we are just getting started with Excel formulas that make your life more easier. Drop a comment and tell me what function you need to see in the next video. And remind, the Excel file is used in this video is linked below in the description. You can download it and try it by yourself. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.